lot of soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, the fans are telling you, and I'm going to tell you, outstanding performance at Big Sam last week.
Thank you. I snuck into the check line at the second
Doesn't
Central
matter.
Open of the season.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, let's be honest here. It's a 38th place finish, so there is a lot of room for improvement there. That being said, based on the strength of the field and how it all went down, I am very proud to have cashed a check. And I mean, I still have a very faint pulse. I think I'm going to need like 2 top 10s. I was kind of doing the math, but 2 left, 2 down. I think I'm 25th in the Centrals after 2 events. So
I know a lot of people want to hear about what went down during practice, what went down during the tournament, so we're going to get into that. We're also going to have Josh Douglas on, and second place finish, the man that won the $50,000. You can say his name. Go ahead.
Matsushitu. Oh, Masakui Masushita.
Yeah, he went.
Masayuki Masushita.
Yeah,
He got like 27, and then he backed it up on the final day, and then he ended up getting Douglas by
almost 2 pounds.
Pound and a half. Yeah. And then Chris Wilson, who always catches him there. Keith Combs, who always catches him there. Daryl Gleason, who we're gonna have on the show tomorrow.
Yeah,
you were like, well, the home field advantage didn't play that great, and I was
with
like,
some of the guys,
Chris Wilson, Keith Combs,
with some of the guys,
Daryl Gleason, Albert Collins.
The point I was
Jason
trying to
Christie.
make. Hang on a minute. The point that I was trying to make is some of the guys that you would think and would have thought would have caught him didn't catch him.
Yeah, September's tricky. And guys, if you watched it live, what Masushita and Douglas and Combs and Gleason not on the final day, but I mean those guys made it look easy. Let's chuck the big swim.
But it wasn't easy.
It was not an easy bite. I boated 7 keepers on day 1 and 5 keepers on day 2. Now, that's not what I had hooked up. I'm saying I had a lot of keeper bites, but what I put in the boat was 5 on day 2 and 7 on day 1.
Primary pattern.
Well, obviously my favorite technique, punching grass. I mean, was there any doubt that I would go down to Sam Rayburn and punch grass?
That is so awesome.
I told you before I went down there, I said, you know what, there's one thing that I'm going to do. It's going to be punch grass, and then I might punch some more grass. Because, I have such a good understanding of grass punching, and we just get along. There's a lot of grass around Oklahoma. So I just stuck with what my comfort zone was and just lived in the grass. It's really easy to read. Kind of, we got that new bait, the BFE in BTL color. So I knew what bait. I knew where I was going to go fish, and I just fished my strengths, Mark.
Now, how many times have you punched grass in a tournament before that one?
This was my first time, so that was a little bit of sarcasm there. If you hadn't been following it last week or 2 weeks ago on BTL when we had Ish on, you might want to go back and listen to that show because I was emphatic that the one thing I would not do when I went to Sam Rayburn was punch grass. Now, I'll say this. I owe Brandon a big shout out down there in Texas. He's a BTL listener. And this, the off limits are the official practice, right? And he said, hey, man, I fished some team tournaments down there with my buddies, with my family members. Got a lot of experience. Got some brush piles. If you want waypoints, I got them for you. That's basically what it was for some. I can give you some to look at. So a big shout out to Brandon. One of the one of the areas that he had some piles in, I caught a 6-pounder out of.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all just grass. I mean, because he was like, yeah, I hate fishing the grass. Don't fish the grass down there either. And I was like, trust me, I'm not. I'm staying away from that hydrilla.
That's awesome.
And then the next to last day of practice, I go in there and I punch the hydrilla, and it's just like, boom. And I set it, and I actually posted it on my Instagram account at Matt Pengrack, which you could follow me. I posted some
there
stuff
you have
on
it.
there.
Nice plug.
Pangrac. No spaces. But it was on the BFE, and it was a 4-pounder just stuck.
Nice.
And then I went a while longer, and a while longer, and I was like, huh. Then I fished like 3 miles without a bite. And then I got back that night. This is no BS, Mark. I got back that night, and I got on YouTube. And I was rooming with James Biggs, and I pulled a piece of paper out, and I said, now explain to me what it looks like underneath this grass. Because there are certain, I'm just telling you how it went down.
Oh,
because there's certain stuff, and Gary, my Biggs, drew me a little deal, and he's like, now here's why you're getting bit here, because it was matted, which is less sunlight, which means you just had the stalk, which means you didn't have the flower underneath it. And then I kind of figured out some different areas based on some mapping, and I went back and I got some more bites, and then I started kind of experimenting with the weights and stuff, and they literally were eating the BFE and BTL. I went through 4 packs of them.
Do you remember Mark Kyle? The name Mark Kyle?
Yeah.
All right. He told me one time, he said, the best way to describe what the mats and the grass looks like, what are those jellyfish? Man of War, I think is what they're called. Where it's flat and then it's got the tentacles on the bottom.
That's what it looks like.
He goes, that's the best description I can give to you.
Very cool. Yeah. And then I also had some brush pile stuff. I had a couple heartbreaking moments. I had like a 6 or 7-pounder, like, free willy over a ribbit on day one. Like that perfect, like
Shamu moment,
arch jump, mouth closed, just jump completely over it. And I only made like 3 casts with the ribbit the whole day.
Yeah.
And I picked the punch bait up and flipped it in there, and it went about 6 inches down, went boom, and stopped, and I missed him. And then I caught like one almost 6 out of the brush pile on day one. Very next drop, hook another giant. Get it all the way back, sitting down. Honestly, I haven't landed very many 6s without a net, but I practice it. I try to, fish without a net. I mean, I only fish with a net in a tournament the rest of the time. So it's 10-pound test on the spinning rod, drop shot. I sit down like all those guys do, get the rod on the left-hand side, fight the fish out, keep them, and go to lip them, and he just does a little head shake. And I would have added about 4 pounds to the bag. And then I got 3 giants stuck in the brush piles that I couldn't get off. We'll talk to Josh Douglas about that. It was heartbreaking watching him try to get that fish out. But I learned a lot watching him trying to get that fish out of the brush pile. Man, that's about a 5-6 minute segment right there. What he was doing that you can learn a lot from. Because I had 3 of those, or 2 of those scenarios on day 2 where I hooked what I knew was a 6+ pounder in the brush. And I wish I had handled it more like Josh did on the final day. Because I only gave him 45 seconds to a minute before I started yanking on him.
Now, what were the guys like that were in the boat with you?
Awesome. I had 2 really good co-anglers. Kid the first day, about to graduate from Arkansas.
Yeah.
Just does a hero cast in the very back of the mats. Jacks a 5-pounder, comes in with 3 for 9. Both of my co-anglers caught limits out of the grass. Second day partner had he was retired from the military, had never punched grass before, and he caught 3 doing it. So for 5 pounds. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Did they know about BTL? Did the young kid know?
I mean, no one like specifically was like.
Oh,
neither
I'm fishing with Matt Pengrack?
Yeah, no, that's a very rare,
not yet?
rare occurrence.
Oh, man. Great job, though.
One of the guys that I pulled up next to, though, day 2 at the launch ramp, or at the, you sit there forever. They have 200 people there. And he goes, Matt, you from BTL? I said, yeah. And he's like, man, Jeffries can get fired up. I said, yeah, I know.
I've been kind of tame lately, but
Yeah,
I'm going to get a little fired up today. Something happened over the weekend.
Oh, you went bowling?
No. That has nothing. No,
woods?
I'm not even going to go into that until the end of the show. No, it is fishing related. And dude, I have went on this. It's not really a rant. It's more of a question. Matthew.
Okay.
It is a question. Now,
of what?
I let me look at time. Okay, we're good on time. I don't want to get deep into it. It's just, I'm going to bring up this question again, and I would appreciate any feedback from the fans. I'm not going to go on a rant. I'm just going to ask a question.
Okay.
I was intrigued by the FLW event that Tom Mansour won.
Okay.
But I knew everything that took place. I knew everything that happened. I knew what he was fishing. I watched it live. I watched everything. I watched bits and pieces. I knew what happened. I knew what went down, everything. And then I'm channel surfing late Saturday night, and I run across the show. Have we reached the point, folks, where these TV shows covering tournaments need to be structured and produced that summarize and focus on the players rather than trying to produce a television show that is a drama, that is
Isn't
a
that kind
build-up?
of what FLW does now? It's like
No.
a 40-minute kind of recap
No,
highlight. And
that's not what this was.
They mostly use the footage from the
No,
live.
that's not what this was, dude.
Okay, I can't speak intelligently on
Yeah,
this topic.
that's not what this
because I
was.
haven't
It was
seen
the way...
You've been on this soapbox forever.
It was the way
with the
that
classic and
tournament
everything.
television is continuing to be placed on television. Are people going to continue watching these shows if they just produce the thing as a mystery?
Yeah, I think so.
I disagree, and the reason
we've had
that,
this topic, we've had this discussion for
because
5 years.
I know, dude, but I sat there and I watched it again, and I asked myself this question: why am I watching this? Because there was nothing that I saw on that show that I didn't already know. From a technique standpoint,
Still watched it.
from a player, because I wanted to see if there was anything on this show that opened my eyes to something that maybe I missed.
So you still watched it, and it was still intriguing.
I'm not watching it anymore.
Okay.
All right, let me ask you this. All right, NASCAR race. If they live streamed a NASCAR race,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. If they live streamed a NASCAR race, you watched it, you knew who won, you know when the big one happened, you replayed the big one 27,000 times.
Yeah, I'm watching the freaking hour-long recap, but the problem is you can watch the whole thing because you can see all the cars at once, and it gets done in 3 hours. You're talking about a tournament that's 32 hours in length that has 100 different players, and they only have 5 or 6 different cameras. So yeah, even if I know the outcome in my hour recap, there's going to be a lot of stuff in there that I haven't seen before, because it's not like I'm watching a recap of something that I've already watched live. There's a crap load of stuff that happens during those 4 days that I like it in a nice summarized package. Even if I know what wins, it gives me a timeline. It allows the guys to promote their stuff. So yeah, I like it the way it is like that.
You just kind of substantiated my premise based upon what you just said. You like to see maybe some things that you missed from the live coverage. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why not have Mansour in there in the studio breaking down?
They've done that before with the ESPN studios and the Elite Series guys. They'll have like 4
one
recap.
time.
They have like 3 or 4 recap
They don't
shows
do
a
the
year.
TV show. You don't need the TV show now. Times have changed.
I like the TV show. I think it
How
puts
many-
a nice
did-
cherry
did-
on top of it.
Have you watched it?
No. But I'll go
Okay.
back and watch it.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will.
You
I'll
will
go
not.
back and watch all of them. I've watched all of them.
Dude, do you watch
multiple
more?
times.
All right, answer this question.
I watched
Do you-
tons of stuff from the 2006 through the 2019 Elite Series season.
You're seriously going to take minutes and hours out of your life to watch something that you already know what the outcome is.
Absolutely.
Already know
Absolutely.
What the techniques were.
Go back and
Already
watch the
know
shows all the time.
What the drama was.
Yeah, 100%. And then when I'm going to Rayburn, I went and watched all the stuff that they had on Rayburn before that, all the TV shows. Again.
Once again, fans, I just want to know what the feeling is out there in the world. Are you going to take valuable time in your life to watch something that you already know what the outcome is? You already know what the technique was. There's massive quantities of information out on the web
also assuming,
on what they've done.
I know, but you're also assuming that everybody who comes across it on TV knows to go to flwfishing.com or bassmaster.com and watch the live stream and knows what happens. So you're still getting the viewer who knows what's happening because he's like, oh, I'm going to watch a recap of this even though I know what's happened. And you're also getting the large amount of viewership who's coming across it who doesn't know what happens. And it is like watching a new tournament to them. So why?
I want to know. I think the minority viewer is that. Anyway. There is a very, very small portion of the people that watch. Would you not be more intrigued to watch something if it was a different format that gave you even more insight than building up? Ooh, I wonder if Monsour's going to catch him on the final day.
I want a live stream camera in Josh Douglas's boat every day he's on Mille. And instead of watching a tournament or something, I could just plug in on that and watch Josh Douglas and his clients catching 6-pounder after 6-pounder on Mille.
Yeah.
Just like the Big Brother house.
Yeah. Dude, somebody made a comment on the instant feedback, and I agree 100%. Most people, or there are some people out there that just don't follow tournaments, that just want to watch fishing. I get that. All right. But I think the percentage of people that do that is very, very small. How many people do you think were channel surfing at 1:30 in the morning or 1 in the morning, whatever it was, on the Pursuit channel and happened to run across that?
DVR. 3 letters.
It used to be that way.
Yeah.
And I've said it.
I'll tell you what was cool was having the live coverage on the final day of the Opens. You got to give it up to Bass for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great stuff. They delivered the drama on it. And the reason they did was, I mean, it makes sense. You look at this race that you've got that's starting to shape up now that we're 3 tournaments in, 2 in the Centrals, 1 in the Eastern. They're about to head to Lake Hartwell, but you look at the points race and like just the top 12 in this. Now, I'm not saying the other guys aren't big names, but I mean, you've got Keith Combs, Gerald Swindle, Jason Christie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are some giant names, and then throw in all the locals and the tour guys in there too, with what the history that Gleason has had in the year that Douglas, and I mean, it's impressive.
So let me ask this question: based upon those top 12, all right, that were fishing on the final day, would it not be cool to put together a television show and cover and summarize what went down that week, rather than building up to, oh, I wonder if,
Yeah, I think you could make a television show out of the Opens.
You could hear from Swindle.
Now that on the final day, yeah.
Yeah, you could hear from Swindle. You could hear from Combs. You could go in depth on what Josh was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you still know what the outcome is. Yeah, all I'm saying, folks, a different format. Something else that is not trying to portray what is known.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be cool. That's just me.
No,
right? I get it.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think I was doing the points. I still might be screwed in 25th.
I don't think so,
I got 302 points. They take the top 4. 4th is Hackney, 359. So Lee Livesey's already on it. So I think they'll go down. So that's 356. Yeah. Well, look, ahead of me, I've got Lee Livesey. Well, Christie's fishing to get back on.
Yeah.
He's got to, if that's what he wants to do, who knows?
Yeah.
It's convenient. He's fishing both divisions.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a bunch of guys on the. Porosnik is in there. God, The reason the guys are the guys is because those guys catch them. That's why they're all at the top there.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. Ahead of me is Steven Browning, Clark Reeve, Kenta Kimura, Porosnik, Polinick, Josh Douglas in 10th, Swindle, Gleason, Christie, Hackney, Livesey.
You still got a chance, man.
I know, but I'm just saying, you want to be one of the guys, just bring in 5 big ones, and that's the easiest way to get there.
You got to catch them. Hey, some interesting comments on the instant feedback. Folks, I'm not trying to do away with television. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm saying is just a format change that makes it more enjoyable for the viewer from an entertainment, education, and engagement standpoint on the fan side.
By the way,
that's all I'm saying.
Did you see the MLF press release?
Which one?
Strong.
Which one?
About their viewership and stuff.
We'll get into that. I am actually working, not on this show, but I am working on getting somebody to come on this show.
Shots fired.
And explain the Nielsen ratings.
I mean, they did not pull any punches in it. They just said, we're the best by a lot.
I'm working on that.
And the stats prove that we're the best.
There's some things in that release, and there's some things in the Nielsen ratings I just don't understand. And I'm trying to find out answers. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to say this, that, or the other. All I'm going to say is I'm trying to do my homework.
Perfect.
I'm trying to get an expert.
Perfect.
An independent expert to come on this show and explain to us and the fans what all this Nielsen stuff means. Make sense, Matthew?
Yep.
So we'll see about that. All right, we're going to come back with Josh Douglas here on a Monday. Everybody stay tuned.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from chirp sonar and fish reveal to side scan and down scan imaging, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
AFCO's new Yuri performance shirts are made out of a new fabric. Aeromesh technology, Aeromesh fabric, really breathable. You know, it just doesn't stick to you whenever you're sweating. It's 105 in Florida. You know, you got sun beating down, there's hardly any wind. You know, your shirt won't stick to your back or anything like that. Any little breeze gets through it, and all the AFCO features that you like with the hood, not without a hood, depending on which one you like. It's got odor technology, so your pits don't stink whenever you're sweating. It has thumb loops. So whenever you're driving down the lake, 70 miles an hour in a bass boat, you got the thumb through here, sleeves won't roll up, so you have no excuse if you get sunburned. Any little breath of air gets through and cools you down, so make sure you check them out. Any fish, any water, any condition, AFCO has you covered.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Hey everybody, Todd Faircloth here. Want to show you one of my favorite braided lines, SX1 30-pound Sunline braid. I use this braided line for a couple of different applications, and one of my favorites to use for this line is a swim jig. Casts great, and it's small diameter, and just works really great on a swim jig. Another technique I like to use for 30-pound SX1 Sunline braid is whenever I'm flipping like a light, say an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce weight in grass, small diameter, I don't lose much action on my worm, just works great in those scenarios. So if you're looking for a braided line for a swim jig or fishing a light Texas rig, check out Sunline's SX1 30-pound braid.
All right, we are back, kicking off the week on a Monday. And it is time to go to our special guest, Mr. Josh Douglas. Let's see if we can bring him in now. Josh, you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking time out after a week in Texas there, and outstanding effort, man.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. Big fan.
All right, first question I have. We just had the dissertation from Matt about how well he did the very first time in a tournament punching grass. What did you do?
I mean, let me just say this. Well, Josh is judging me right now because it makes me sound like I'm a rookie angler who doesn't know what the hell I'm doing. I grew up in Central Illinois, then I moved to Oklahoma. It's not like I grew up there up north where it's just a freaking salad festival everywhere you guys go. So it's not like I haven't had those opportunities. So that's why it was the first time.
And it was a big deal because we talked about it on the show, how he was not going to punch grass.
Yeah, 0% chance that I was going to punch grass going down.
And then that's how he ends up catching them. Anyway, I'm just curious.
The
very first tournament that you fished where you had to punch grass, how'd you do?
I did okay, but I'm from Minnesota. So Minnesota actually fishes. We're known for smallmouth and all that kind of good stuff, but it actually is more like, Mille Lacs is different. It's a glacial lake, clear water, all that. But most of the other 12,000 lakes we have in the state are grass lakes. So punching vegetation is something we do a lot. And it was actually what I did Saturday and Sunday all day when I first got to Rayburn. That's how I wanted to catch them.
And you didn't find anything?
No, I didn't. I got there maybe mid-afternoon Saturday. And I fished kind of a part of the lake that I never, I was looking for something different with all the boats, and that was a terrible day. Then Sunday I went out all day and kind of hung out in Veach, and then Caney and Harvey. There was a lot of grass. There was a lot of boats, and I flipped all day, and I think I caught like 6 keepers for maybe 11 pounds, and it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good for me at all. So then I started looking for other options.
That's crazy. So Sunday, I get on the water, Sunday morning, and I mess around a little, and I said, I'm going to go check out Veach. And I go in there, and there's like 75 boats. No exaggeration?
No, none. It was full.
And I did a lap, and I'm like, A, I don't know what I'm looking for. And B, even if I did, there's no way I could ease in here and get bit. I was like, this is a cluster. So I leave. So I drive back through there. I said, I'll go back check it. So I check it on Monday. There's like 70 boats in there. I'm like, there is no way that there's going to be fish caught out of this. And then I go back. Everyone's like, well, it's Sam Rayburn. There's like 8,000 fish per square acre. Like, there's still going to be fish in there. So then I go back in there Tuesday. There's like 10 boats in there. And I like just pick a stretch, like second flip, 4.5 pounder. And I get on it. So then I'm like, oh, well, everyone's probably already got them dialed in here, so I'm going to check it Wednesday morning. There was like no one in there Wednesday, and I started in there Thursday. There were like no boats in there Thursday. It was absolutely crazy. It was like everyone, I think, overthought the fact that there were so many boats in there in practice. But it worked out for you because you ended up going offshore and getting on something really special, especially on that day one. You were next to me when we were bagging the fish. Man, you had like specimens. They weren't like big-headed, like beat-up fish. They were like specimens, like Bass Pro Shops or Scheels tank, like a Scheels fishing tank specimens in the aquarium.
Yeah, there were some beauties that first day. There wasn't like a really true kicker in that group. They were basically all like 6.5 to 3.5 pounders, and they were real healthy. All those fish looked really good.
So tell us, how did you get on that deal on day one?
Yeah, so I came to Rayburn looking to flip grass. That's what I wanted to do. That I figured was going to be more of my strong suit. I didn't have a single waypoint or anything to go off of. I did fish the FLW tour tournament this year and last year on Rayburn, And Rayburn, every time I've been there, I've only been there really. I've only had this is my third tournament, and I think I've stopped there once or twice other times. But it's never, ever, ever looked the same to me coming back. It's like last year, the water was 8 feet into the trees, so I had to delete all those waypoints. This year, this FLW tournament, I caught him in Harvey, throwing a rattle trap the whole time to get a check. And then this one, I just couldn't get it going in the grass. And like I said, I excel in the grass. I like to do it. I punch mats. I flip the edge. And with that water dropping and just all the boat traffic, I just started looking. I was a little discouraged. So Monday morning, I launched in Castle Boykins, and I just started idling. And I probably marked 20 brush piles that I found, and maybe some hard spots, points, obvious stuff. And I think I started a little deep, but my first brush pile was in like 15 feet, and it was right across from Castle Boykin boat ramp. So I just know from Mille, we fish a lot of boulders and isolated stuff. That's something that I've always excelled at with my Lowrance units, is just looking for something that's going to hold big fish and then running it all day long. So I started with that. I idled them all. I marked probably 20. Ended up later deleting half of those because they just weren't right. But then I circled back. And I remember that first brush pile I found was like a cane pile. I was on like a cement bucket with cane coming out of it. And I saw it, and I remember as I idled for like 2 hours in the canyons area, I remember watching 2 different boats fish that brush pile. So as I circled back, I never actually fished them. I just marked them. I circled back after 2 hours, and on that brush pile that I had, saw 2 people fish. The first one I found, I made a cast on it, and I caught a 7.5 pounder. And I never ever made another cast the rest of the practice. I just took it and I idled, and I knew if I sat there, I knew 2 things would happen if I fished them. I knew 1, 3 things really. People would see you fishing them and then scoot over there at some point and idle around and find it too. 2, I didn't know good enough whether or not they were good or bad, and didn't want to judge the fact on not catching one on that brush pile that it wasn't going to be any good. And a lot of that was because I just watched 2 people fish a brush pile, then I pull up, catch a 7 pounder. So I don't know the timing or how it's going to go, but I knew that if maybe I could find enough in the next day and a half that I could run them. And I ended up finding like probably 75 and then cut it down to 54. But I knew Rayburn well enough to know that it gets big. It's a big lake. It's tough to run around on. It's tough to move, and the water gets real big in the waves. So I knew I couldn't, run to brush piles in Beach, run to brush piles in Harvey, run to the deer stand. I knew that wasn't going to be feasible. So I just kind of stuck in that area north of the bridge and just kept moving. And I looked, and it just all started to come together because, the canyons, the deer stand, Jackson Hill, all that notoriously pumps out bass. Well, unlike Harvey and stuff, those fish don't really have nowhere to go with the dropping water and the pressure in those areas. So it just kind of fed to me and kept coming. And in the end, I basically ran them all for the first time day one, and it came out with 22.5 pounds doing it. So I just kind of gained steam as the tournament was progressing.
One of the things that you did was you really mixed in a finesse bite in it with the drop shot, and I think you caught also some with the bait casting tackle, a swim bait on the final day. But was most of your damage done with a drop shot? And talk about the drop shot that you were using in that brush setup, because I remember I watched you on the final day go around and around trying to get that fish out, and I was like, man, I know that feeling, because I had 3 of those get hung up in there, and you get them out enough to where you're like, oh my God, I need this fish, and then they get hung up again, and it's such a hopeless feeling. But to watch the way you worked on getting that fish that ended up breaking off, but I mean, it was impressive. So go through kind of your setup and how you had confidence putting a drop shot in some gnarly stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw a drop shot. I knew all my Texas buddies was going to give me crap when they saw that video and stuff. I didn't want nothing to. I mean, like I always say, we're from Minnesota. I'm born with hockey skates on my feet and a spinning rod in my hand. I'm really comfortable with spinning outfits. I knew that was a knife in a gunfight. But if you're not getting the bite on anything else, it's the last resort. And day one, I had one just like that. Ended up being a 5.5 pounder, my second biggest fish on day one, and it took me about 5 minutes to get them out. Day two, I lost like an 8 or 9 pounder on the same thing. I flipped into it was my last. I'd use a swim bait or a crankbait to find the brush pile from like 100 feet away. I'd get myself, I'd creep up. I didn't want, that was one thing I didn't do either. And I learned that from Mille and just different fisheries that are getting a lot of pressure, especially in a COVID year with just everybody fishing. I did not idle these brush piles. I'd pull up on them and start casting from a long way, and then use my live sight within like 60 feet of the brush pile to really start dialing it in. And that drop shot was my last resort, but it did get big bites. That second day, I actually lost a monster bag. I lost 2 in the 8-pound range and a 5-pounder that was on my that the 5-pounder was the one that kind of pissed me off the most because I touched them twice and just couldn't get them into the boat. The other ones I lost, but that 8-pounder, like it was my last resort. I flipped the drop shot. I'm working it through, and all of a sudden I felt the bite exactly like that day 3 bite, and it just went straight down. And he pulled out of the brush, but my line was still going down in the brush. And all of a sudden, 10 feet on the other side, an 8-pounder comes up and just starts wallowing my drop shot and ends up going back into the brush. And after 10 minutes, I had to break that one off too. So it was one of those that, sometimes those big ones, they find their way out. I'd have rather had it been grass to do it, but at the same time, day one, I would say in the end, I probably caught 50% of my bass on a drop shot. And then the other ones, I went between a swim bait, a big worm, and a football jig.
All right. So what was the setup on it? Because you were pulling on that line. It looked like braid to fluoro combo on it.
On the spinning rod?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bumped up to like 12-pound test. I use an FG knot, so it's really long. I got a long leader on there. I knew, I can just cut it off every time one of those happened. I did catch like a 2-something out of a brush pile similar to that took me a while to get out of it. But yeah, it was just a G Loomis NRX. I use a 7.3 medium or 7.3 medium 872 NRX. It's kind of a beefier rod. I really like it for offshore largemouth bass fishing, or like a Ned rig for smallmouth tubes, stuff like that. And then just 10-pound Power Pro SSV2, a 12-pound Seeger and Vizex fluorocarbon, and a robo worm.
Hook?
An owner cover shot. 1/0 was the one I was using. I started with the 2/0 and ran out of them and went to the 1/0. I don't think it ended up mattering much either way. Sometimes a smaller hook and brush is better because you won't grab you're less likely to grab all the twigs and branches and stuff like that.
Because I was using a 3 because they were out of, I didn't have any of they were out of the 2s at the tackle shop. I don't know if you saw that too.
No, finding tackle is a real problem right now.
So I ended up with a 3, and like I said, I was rooming with James Biggs, and he's like, dude, you need to be using a 1. He's like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, why? He's like, easier to penetrate, less hook to get stuck in the brush. He's like, but go ahead, have fun with that. See how that works out for you. So while I've got these 2 giants stuck down there, I'm thinking, should have had a 1.
I don't care if you would have had a flipping hook on there. Sometimes they're just not coming out of that stuff. They get you in there, and if they go one way and come back in the other, it's over. You're not going to get them back through that.
Man, all right. So what do you have on tap? Obviously, the remaining opens, but what else are you doing the remainder of the season, Josh?
Yeah, that's about it. Now the FLW's wrapped for the season. The schedule came out. Looking forward to that next year. And then I didn't do much guiding this year. I only do out-of-state trips. You have to fly in or drive in and rent a cabin and do all that. And with COVID restrictions and all that up north, it's pretty hardcore. So I just couldn't give that level of service that I usually can offer, but things are kind of getting back to normal up there. So I do have like 2 weeks of, after right now, we just got to Lake Cherokee late last night. I'm going to just idle around and look, try to figure out where the smallmouths are, because then we come back down. We have Hartwell after this, and then we come back down in October, and we got Neely Henry, and then we got to go straight to Cherokee. So it'll be a little bit shorter practice. So just kind of buzzing around and fishing, and kind of excited to still have a full season to go here in the fall.
Yeah, Matt, I have a follow-up on that. Real quick, I'm curious, with the whole COVID-19 situation, you talked about the amount of pressure that these lakes are taking. In your tournament prep, does that factor at all? Are you taking into consideration certain areas where maybe they're getting hammered even more than they have in previous time? Is that even a factor, or do you just put a game plan together and move forward?
No, it's a huge factor, but a place like Rayburn just gets framed in from the dam all the way up to the second bridge.
It's crazy.
They get hammered. Mille is getting hammered. Gunnersville. I mean, it don't matter where we go. The La Crosse was crazy. It's just these places, St. Clair, doing that run at that last tournament from Erie to St. Clair. That was probably the dumbest thing I ever did, just because they were just getting pounded in St. Clair on that U.S. side to only have like 2.5 hours to fish. But yeah, there's no doubt you got to think about it. But at the end of the day, you know, for Rayburn, what it came down to for me is I was just going to make sure I was in the area where it just always kind of goes down, and just use my Lowrances to find them from there.
You are 6th in the points in the overall out of the 50 guys that are fishing all the opens, 10th in the Central Opens after a solid finish at the River. I think 58th place there, and then a 2nd place. Is the goal to make the elites here?
Man, the goal is always to make whatever the top stage is going to be. And if honestly, it's an easy question for me. I'd fish them both. I mean, that's just, I want opportunity. You know, I root for all the anglers. I grew up watching Jason Christie fish them both, watching Ish Monroe fish them both. I appreciate both the organizations. I really do. I understand that they got a business that they're running and they have to do what's best for the organization, but they win every week. You know, they got a winner every week to promote and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it's more about myself, Josh Douglas Fishing, obviously Bree and Lutzen and my family and my sponsors, man. And I just want to be on stages to have tournaments like these and to try to win. And I don't care if you're holding the FLW trophy, an MLF trophy, or a Bassmaster trophy. Ain't nobody can take that away from you when you get it.
You mentioned the sponsors. I've talked to people down here in Oklahoma who haven't been. They don't know what a Shields is like. I was trying to explain it to Mark. I was like, picture like it's got like 6 aisles of bowling stuff, like 3 aisles of badminton stuff, 2 aisles of like croquet, hockey, everything, and then the fishing. But I mean, dude, you're like big league over there. I always see you posting the photos, like all your giant 60-foot tall photos of you catching fish and stuff. Just kind of talk about your relationship with that company, because it seems to be really growing, and you really seem to be kind of tied in and really represent them really well through the boat and the truck wrap, and it seems like you have a really good relationship with a big company that continues to grow as the years progress.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And before I get into Shields, I mean, really, I do with all my sponsors. I always have. I'm pretty fiercely loyal to the companies that have helped me get there. First and foremost, I fish every day and I don't really do anything else. So I just want to use the best of the best, and then I'll work my way into their program. You know, I'm going to pick the ones that I want. And Shields is no doubt one of those companies. I think they've been around since like 1902 or something crazy. They're completely employee owned, and they treat their sponsored guys just the same. I mean, it's incredible to find that they just don't have any turnover in their employees. They stay there. Many of them stay there for their lifetime. If you haven't been to a Shields, you know, they're growing. They just put one in Dallas, Texas. It's a mega store. They put one up in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. But generally, it's known through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then heading west through the north. But they're definitely starting to push down into the south. But they got everything. I mean, if it's you know, I don't want to compare them to any other stores, because really they're one of their own. You know, if they got, I mean, Bree spends more money in that place than I do. They have clothes, they have you know, furniture type stuff, like a cabin area that has, I don't know how, decor or whatever. They still sharpen hockey skates like in-house. They got golf area, hunting, obviously sell a lot of guns and stuff like that. And if it's the best, like Sim, Sitka, any of the top of the line, G Loomis stuff, I mean, they carry it, and that's their deal. But Shields is, you know, I'm somewhat local for them. They're out of Fargo, North Dakota, which is only a couple hours away from my house. Have a huge presence in Minnesota.
I've been there. I've been to Fargo.
Yeah, we had kind of talked and worked, you know, for a year, kind of courted each other a little bit. I did some stuff for them, and they're just an incredible store. And they're great to their employees, and they're really good to their you know, to me. Like they've set me, you know, like I said, again, I have a lot of good sponsors that have been with me for a long time and made this dream a reality and continue to push me. But there ain't no doubt that Shields is definitely the name that I love having on the side of my truck.
Is that weird, walking into the store and seeing like a 60-foot poster?
Yeah, it's dumb, actually. Yeah, for me, I'll never You know, even when a kid asks for an autograph or something, I'm just like, still look over my shoulder, like, is Jason Christie behind me or something, or what are you asking me for? But you know, I walk in the store and it's humbling as crap. I look up there and like I see like Adam Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings and Tiger Woods, and then I see me, and it's just like, oh, come on, you know. But
it's cool.
But man, that's my store. Those are my people, and they do a really, really good job. And I tell you what, they are doing a really good job in the fishing industry and the outdoors. And if you the online, great place to get stuff. I just encourage everybody, if you go buy Shields, check it out for yourself. It's a big store, and they do it right.
Destination store, one of those that you want to
really?
give it 2 or 3 hours. Like, I mean, you can go test out all the stuff. They have like the little hockey deal. You can shoot the pucks, try to snipe it and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the map.
Yeah, where's the closest one's got to be the Colony deal down in Dallas.
Yeah.
But every time we go up north to Cashabowie, Lake Cashabowie in Ontario, you pass the Shields. You have to stop there to get your spinners for the walleye and your the jointed, fire tiger rapalas for the pike, and they got all that stuff up there. So you have to stop into the Shields to get all that stuff.
Yeah. They got a really nice one in Kansas City too, Overland Park. But yeah, I think hopefully we'll see more and more keep popping up throughout the South, because it's definitely a market that would work well for them.
Yeah, they got one in Reno,
Nevada.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. What's your split in time as far as guiding versus tournament fishing? I mean, I know you're you're fishing the most tournaments out of anybody that can this year, because you're fishing 8 of the Opens and then all of the tours. You said you wanted to fish both next year. You're also, I mean, you're probably the best guide on Mille as far as just the most well-known guy who catches big fish all the time. So how is that time split? I mean, are you 50-50 on it, or more guiding than tournament fishing?
No, definitely more tournaments and just sponsor out. Video is so huge now, and I'm so lucky to travel with my wife. She left her corporate job 4 years ago when I got on the tour, and does all my video and photography and stuff for my Instagram and YouTube and sponsors and all that. So all that becomes a huge commitment. I mean, you really today you have to be as good on the water as you are off the water, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. You need, Josh Douglas Fishing is the business. And if people hit me up all the time, I know I'm getting off topic, but they hit me up all the time and say, what do you got to do to get sponsors? And if you're not using your social media on a regular thing, then why should a sponsor give you a dime to help you? Because if you can't promote yourself, who says you can promote them? And when it comes to guiding, that's how I started. I didn't finish school. I wish I did, but I went to school for hospitality management, ended up switching into being a bartender so that I could leave whenever I wanted for opens and stuff. But it's a great way to be a people person. And I guide during the day, and I bartend at night. And I actually really like bartending. And then, guiding. And then I like bartending too. That's fun. I love bartending. But the guiding is big for me. And I'm not cheap. I'm like $750 a day, and I require you to come in from out of state. I don't want to see you on the spot the next day, type stuff. But I just use my social media following. I got an awesome guide clientele. But I'd say, if I can do 35 trips in a year, that's a pretty good at this point in time. But like I said, if I get home and I have the weeks, it helps me as a tournament angler, because it's all about pressure. I mean, once you know how to throw a Carolina rig and throw a jerk bait and all that, it's about making good decisions and dealing with pressure. And so every day, if I got people flying in, spending all this money to come out to be on the water with me, I have to put them on 20 pounds. You don't come to Mille to catch 15 pounds. You don't come there for me to tell you a 3-pounder, that's a nice one. That's not, people want 4, 5s, and 6s. That's why they're coming there, and they want to catch 20 pounds a day. So that constant pressure every single day just has, over the last couple of years, has just really, for me personally, I've seen the growth and change in my mental behavior out on the water of just dealing with it. So it's something that I know a lot of pros tend to leave the guiding and move on when they get there. But for me, man, when I retire, I'm going to be guiding full time.
Nice. All right. I want to go to the instant feedback here. Can you see that on the screen, John?
Yeah.
Donald wants to know, it says, hey guys, what's the best mapping card for detail for the HDS Gen 3?
Yeah. I'm the compatibility from a Gen 3, I don't exactly know. I'm not the best. I still call people like Cheryl and people at Navionics and stuff to fix all my stuff. I'm not very good at that, but as far as using it is great. And I use the Navionics card. Right now I'm really digging the Platinum card. And usually I use like a Navionics Plus, which just allowed me to download anywhere in the US because that's what we're doing. But at the same time, they have that new relief shading and stuff that's got some color to it. And I actually posted a picture of the area that I was fishing right before the tournament, the area that I stayed in the whole tournament for the most part. And that's just a good map because it's everything's updated. Those maps are all real and new. They're bringing new maps all the time. And that's these people, when they put their brush piles, these anglers there, they hide them. They hide them really good. The ones that are sitting on the point and 18 feet on the hard spot are as obvious as they come. And there ain't no fish, but 2-pounders on them, at best. It's the ones that are off the side in the drains and the little sneaky spots that's got hard spot on one and mud on the other. Those are where those big ones were hanging out for sure. And so, yeah, being able to find those little sneaky drains and stuff like that. But anyway, the Navionics, I would recommend personally. And what's nice is no matter what unit you use, for the most part, you can run a Navionics.
Yeah, it's just at Josh Douglas Fishing, no spaces on the Instagram account, and he'll post a bunch of stuff on. I always post the updates. I just showed Mark that relief shading deal, but you're dialed in as far as your mapping. You're always showing about doing little updates and improvements in the mapping and like the relief shading or more contour lines, the 1-foot contour lines and stuff, and new surveying. So definitely worth a follow. You can learn some stuff on the mapping side.
All right, James wants to know, how much did the Lowrance unit help you find the hard bottom in the weeds, and how did you pinpoint the exact spot in the grass?
Well, in this particular tournament, I didn't fish the grass at all. I've casted at brush piles the entire time. They were instrumental in finding those brush piles. Huge. I was glued to it. Matter of fact, I had anglers kind of teasing me like, well, I knew you were going to catch them. I never saw you casting. I just saw you idling. I'd run by you 2 hours later. You're still out there idling. But as far as grass goes, it's good finding hard bottom spots. We're a little bit easier for us up north because everything freezes and then the grass kind of goes dormant. And so if I get out there right away in the spring, I can idle and actually see, areas that grass will be. I can find them hard bottom spots real easy. But for the most part, we all know now electronics are instrumental in what we're doing. The fish are adapting to them. Places like St. Clair, they don't come under your boat no more. They know that program. So it's just so important what electronics can do. And I'm not one of those that thinks it gives you a necessarily unfair advantage. I think God's got a great way of protecting his babies, and these fish will continue to adapt and all that. But at the same time, it's taking a lot of the guesswork out. And that's what you need to be a true pro. Tiger Woods doesn't get lucky when he's golfing. Tom Brady, there's a little luck, but that all produces.
It's one billboard next to him at Shields, and now he's just right there on the same level.
No. What I'm saying is none of the pros, like, they're not lucky. They're good. They're really good, and that promotes like a whole different kind of luck as opportunity. So the electronics just teach you so much more and give you such a bigger understanding of what it is that you're doing out there on the water, and brings those pieces together that much quicker.
Huh. What, are you like 10 years into this deal now? When you started fishing the Opens in 12?
It's kind of funny. We're going back to Louisville. That was my very first Open ever.
Right.
Was the last time they were at Lake Louisville. It was a terrible tournament. I caught a bass each day, and I finished like 60-something.
Yeah, I remember.
I think like 70 guys double blanked in that tournament. It was brutal. That
was the one like Chip made the top 10.
Yeah, I came in. That was my first Open, and I caught one pounder and a 2-pounder the next day and finished 60-something. And I was like, wow, this stuff's going to be easy. Then I got my teeth kicked in for a year and a half before I started to figure out that it's not so easy from a dude from Minnesota. We don't have shad. We don't have nothing. So there's just so much stuff that we had to learn and do learn every day.
But I was just saying, just with the bartending and getting into this and doing all this, you've really put yourself and your career and kind of brand together over the past, I would say, 3 years, 3 or 4. You've been working towards it, but it seems like it's all really come together for you to where you're kind of becoming a household name over the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's awesome to hear. Like I said, I don't think I'll ever give myself that credit. It's always what's next, what's next, what's next. There's always somebody doing it better than you. But yeah, I mean, I work hard at it. Like I said, promoting yourself as an angler is such a big deal. Putting out good content, but I'll tell you, and I still am. I dig for information constantly out there for stuff like, how do I get better? If you're not learning, you're dying. And so you just really, really gotta keep that out there. So for me, the information thing is kind of a big deal. I try to teach people. I want to put the good information out there that teaches people how to be better anglers. And then I truly believe they'll listen to you when you're out there. You got to have a level of credibility. So yeah, I do got a good following. I got a huge fan base. Tournaments like this remind you of that. It's easy to have a bad tournament. I broke down coming back with a good bag at St. Clair, and it cost me a lot. That's the second time that's happened to me in the last 3 years that St. Clair has not allowed me to weigh my fish in the second day. And the amount of support you get from people that just want to pick you back up and all that is big. But yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. I love hearing you say it like that. And, just keep working at it and hope more people keep tuning in.
All right. Eric wants to know, will you be doing more online seminars with Seth this year?
Yeah, Seth and I schedule. I mean, he's one of my bestest friends, dude. We do great segments. I know people absolutely love him too. The problem is Seth, when he moved away from Mille and started having babies, he moved like 3 hours away. And we fished completely different circuits and all that kind of stuff. So trying to get two angler schedules to align good enough to do it is one thing. But I will say, you can, obviously most people tuned in probably follow Seth and stuff. And yeah, we will definitely be doing lots of stuff together. Like I said, he's one of my best friends, one of the best fishermen on the planet. He really is. His best days are definitely ahead of him coming. And at the same time, if you tune into his stuff, he's doing a lot of good stuff with the companies he works with right now as far as good information. So that's one of them that tells you the way it is too. Like what he's doing is really what he's doing on the water every day. But yes, you will see more stuff with Seth and I. It's just a matter of us getting things lined up to be able to keep them coming, because that was always our problem, is trying to make it at a regular. We'd do 2 in a month and then not do anything for 4 months, so, but we'll definitely get on that. I know that's a lot of love that people have for them webinars.
Yeah. Scott wants to know, do you and Seth share info and help each other on different things?
No, not really. Actually, I'm not a huge information guy, and Seth definitely isn't. He can't with the elites and stuff like that, but we do, we're real open with how we catch them in just life, period. If I'm learning something that's real good, I ain't shy to tell Seth what I'm doing, and vice versa. You know what I mean? That makes us better. And that's the same with a lot of my network, of anglers that you just build the trust. And again, it's learning. You can learn from anybody if they get in the boat with you. I don't care who it is. I learned something from my co-anglers, in this whole thing. And it's just something that's big time. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we're good buddies. I don't keep nothing from him at all. But that dude's got a nose on him like no other. He doesn't really need any help. He'll find them.
Hey, what's the deal? Speaking of which reminded me, what's the deal with this ringed Texas rig thing that everybody's doing? It seems like it's like a northern thing where they're tying they're
I don't
putting
know
a
if it's a
split ring
northern
on.
thing or that might be
that's
a fighter thing, dude. He got me on that years ago when we used to fish the Denny Super 30 and all that. It's kind of like maybe like a little bit of a biffle bug mentality, and the fact that it gives the bait a lot of action. But I also think it's hard for a fish to throw it once you hook them, because that bait's always moving around on that ring, and it doesn't really give them a chance to have anything to kind of pull off too. But it gives it good action. But that's all him, man. That's something that I picked up from Seth years ago.
But you do it now too?
Oh, I've done it for you. I've done it since before you knew who the heck I was. That's for sure.
Exclusive? I mean, were you like, you're throwing a 10-inch worm out there on a Rayburn, are you chucking it with a ring?
I don't use it for everything. I use it a lot for when I'm flipping.
So should I have been using all we're talking about, folks, is an offset hook. You use whatever hook you want. Some of the brands actually make it where the ring doesn't have any of the gaps in it to where it can cut your line. But you basically rig it like a Texas rig, and then you've got the O-ring above the hook, and it moves around a little bit. Should I have been doing that punching grass? Would you have had a ring?
I don't. If I'm actually punching like through the mats, that's
Yeah.
the only time that I'll use a snell. I'll snell it
Okay.
and I'll put it on the owner jungle hook is the one that I use, a straight shank owner jungle. But anytime that like for me to use a snell, I have to be like I'm talking 3 feet or less with heavy cover to come through on the top of the mat. That's the only time I'll use it. Outside of that, I can't speak for Seth. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing right now, but I will tell you if I'm out flipping like the edge and the edge of like milfoil or in the holes and it's 6, 7, 8 feet, I'm definitely I like those ring hooks. They're real good.
Willows on Grand.
Yeah, definitely. Flipping. That's another thing. Flipping a tube or a Texas rig or something under boat docks or in willows or on stumps. Yeah, I would use it there too.
Okay.
Interesting.
You know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here, the instant feedback. Whitney in Louisiana wants to know, how shallow is too shallow for side scan?
Oh, man, today, not. I mean, I can see stumps in 2 feet and stuff and mark them. You might want to pull in how far you're scanning, These brush piles were sneaky, so on that course, I was using like 8 feet, but like my main brush piles were 8 feet to like 16 feet. Most of them were right on the drop, and that's what I was doing. But yeah, I can get up on flats, and you'd be surprised. I can shoot 100 feet on both sides in 2 feet of water, and feel like I can drop a waypoint on every single stump on it if they're there. I think that's all coming a really long way, big time.
All right, Jake in Ohio wants to know, is this the indication that we're going to get from the Vikings all season based upon what they did yesterday?
God, I hate it. Like, I almost got more of a gut feeling than I did than when Masayuki beat me. I was like terrible the way they came out, and I'm a diehard Vikings fan. But I will say that, it's a weird COVID year with football, and that's a really young team again. Just got a new defensive end and all new in the backfield. With no preseason and no camps and all that. And Zimmer's defense seems to start slow every year, and then by game 3, game 4, they're in full go. So I think the Vikings will be okay. But I can't stand the Packers with every bone in my body. As much as I hate catching the drum on Lake Erie in the last hour.
Hockey wise, where'd you play? I mean, did you play growing up?
Oh yeah, I played my whole life. Yeah, my little brother was really, really good. I played from like mites through my senior year of varsity hockey in Minnesota, and then. Did
you ever play in the high school tournament there?
No, we weren't good. My brother did. My brother actually took Shakopee, the city that we were from, to their very first state tournament and scored the first goal ever for Shakopee at the state tournament. But no, I was unfortunately a spectator for the championship, cool. Never a player.
Have you ever seen the videos of where they go to it's where the Wild play, right?
Yeah,
and they have it's like crazy, and they have thousands of people who come for this. I mean, there's some guys that are drafted straight out of Minnesota high school hockey into the NHL.
Oh, yeah.
It's happened. Yeah, happened.
That's
before.
like Texas football,
big
man,
league.
or Oklahoma football. That's big time up there.
Yeah. So did your brother play like juniors and all that?
Oh yeah. My brother's really good. Yeah.
Is he still playing?
Good. No, he's done now. But he ended up an injury, got him out of the sport. But just that junior stuff, that's hardcore. That's big time. That's the 2 years of junior hockey will take probably 10 years off your life. I'm sure of it.
Well, I played juniors, but it was junior B. So
yeah, but still, you know how it is. It's rough and tough, man. That's a lot of guys trying to. You got guys that are really good, and then you got guys that are really good at hitting people, and both of them are going to move up the old deal to get in. Yeah,
a lot of hockey guys who like to fish up north too there. Because I played in like Iowa for a year and stuff, and I mean it was like a lot of us would go like walleye fishing and stuff on the river.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, a question from Jeff in Ontario, Canada. And before I ask his question, I'm going to ask you. We had Mark Menendez on the show, and I asked, is it easier for smallmouth guys to learn how to largemouth fish than it is largemouth guys to learn how to smallmouth fish?
I don't know.
What's your response to that?
I was a largemouth fisherman before I was ever a smallmouth fisherman. I think largemouth are way more accessible, so they're probably easier to kind of, there's almost every lake's got some largemouths in it. Smallmouth, but smallmouths can be, I don't want to say they're easy because they're ghost fish and stuff, but they have a really bad attitude, and they'll bite knowing you're fishing for them. Like they're like, I can't really explain it, but that's a good question. I think that's just kind of a in one hand got the other type of deal. Like I don't know. They're both good. I see some guys that just really struggle to figure out this. Like mine's the spotted bass. That's my nemesis. I think I've cashed one check on spotted bass in my life, and heck, even on spotted bass fisheries, I get checks on. I'm usually looking for largemouth, and I don't know why. I'm an electronics guy. I think they're like smallmouth or something, and they're just not. They're way more pelagic or whatever for me. So it's one of those like every day in practice I catch them because I'm looking for new water. But when it comes time for the tournament, they're never in the same spot. So I struggle to catch them. So I just think it's everybody's got their down parts. But, once you understand smallmouth and their seasonal patterns and what they want to do, they're not the same fish at all. They have crazy, crazy good eyes. Largemouth don't. It's like smallies are like a pack of wolves where a largemouth is a mountain lion. He's an ambush predator. He's going to sit in a brush pile and wait for a swim bait, a shad or a crappie to screw up, and he's going to eat it. Smallies can see a mayfly from 15 feet away and come up and crush it because they have they have phenomenal eyes. And the downfall for a smallmouth is that they're generally always in a school. So when you have a schooling mentality, you're going to have dominance, and you're going to have you're going to get one of them to bite if you can stay with them.
Nice. All right. So Jeff from Ontario, Canada wants to know, being from the north, what would you say is the best way to learn how to adapt fishing in the south?
That it's so tough just because I think shad is a really, really big deal. We don't have hydrilla and we don't have shads. Those are two things we don't have. But shad outside of the spawn makes largemouth whole world spin. Like they're going to be where the shad is going to be if you're going to have shad in your lakes. And being that we don't have them, our largemouth are eating crawdads and bluegills, and our smallies are eating crawdads and perch. We just don't have them. Or even in New York, when we go to New York and stuff, there's a little bit of an adjustment there because those smallmouth eat shad too. So you kind of have that aspect. So I'm from the Minnesota area, at least, I'm going to say that shad and then current is a big deal because a lot of these reservoirs still have current. Even Rayburn, I could feel my boat moving when it was slick calm, like re-rigging, and I was 60 feet away from my brush pile and it was flat calm. Next thing you know, I was 350 feet away from it by the time I got back up if I didn't hit spot lock. And we all know what spot lock does when it's dead calm. It freaks out and goes all over the place. It doesn't know what to do. So sometimes you don't want that when it's dead calm. But that's I would say shad and their seasonal. I remember a quote, I believe it was Rick Clun a long time ago, like if you want to catch big bass, then you better understand the shad and the crawdad and stuff like that and understand how they move and what they're doing. And then how fish set up to current is probably the two hardest things for guys from Minnesota to adjust to. If you look, like, I don't know the last time I missed a check in Florida for the most part. I know there's a couple that I probably haven't. An Open, I think I just missed like 44th or something. But Minnesota and Florida actually fish a lot alike because they're natural lakes that were here, where the rest of them are for the most part impoundments and reservoirs. So I think those are probably the two biggest thing a guy from up north has to adjust to be able to fish on the national level. And to do that, I should say, I moved out of Minnesota and I spent some time. We have the Lance camper, me and Bree, so we winter in Florida. We've wintered in Texas, waiting for the tournaments to get going just to learn. We moved to Tennessee when Chickamauga was on fire. Well, still is, but like at its heyday. I knew if this was going to be my career, I better learn how to catch bass on the Tennessee River because we're going to go there every year.
Interesting. All right, real quick, can you explain the O-ring and the hook thing again? A number of people are wanting a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, it's actually like a couple companies make them now. It's just an O-ring on top of it's not on top of a regular extra wide gap hook. It gives the bait a really good action. And at the same time, for me, I don't think I lose them nearly as much on that because they can't seem to get it off. But at the same time, you can just look into it. I think VMC makes one. I think Gamakatsu. I'm obviously an owner guy. That's the hat I'm using. But putting an O-ring, and I got tricky ways I keep to myself putting O-rings on owner hooks and stuff like that. So you just gotta, all it does is gives it a little bit of a different action, and I think keeps them pegged a little bit. But play with it, and like I said, that's all fighter's deal, man. I don't know. I really think he was the one that kind of found the hook and started. I'm sure. I don't know if he just bought the hook and started doing it when he was a kid or what. But it's a really good. Like I said, the dude's a good fisherman. Man, he thinks outside the box, and that's one of his pretty good tricks.
Very cool. All right, man. First time on BTL. I always ask people at the close of the show. I'm curious, what is the one aspect of your game that you feel that you're really, really good at, and the one aspect that you really need to work on?
Consistency is always one of them that I need to work on for sure. Just being consistent. This tournament worked because I didn't have a lot of options, but I'm learning to recognize that too. At some point I didn't want to get a bite in a mat anymore that would make me at 10 o'clock run to that. So consistency, I think, is something I'm getting a lot better at, going through the motions in my head. I honestly, one of my strongest suits isn't even a fishing thing. I just don't let my highs get too high, and I don't let my lows get too low. We will suck out there. That will happen. And that I have seen been so debilitating on anglers before. They get in their head, and then they can't get out of it. So in the same way, if you start thinking you're the man and all that, there's always somebody that's going to feed you your lunch. I promise it. So you just take every tournament at a time, enjoy it, promote yourself, promote your sponsors, and at the same time, but if it's fishing related, I mean, it's going to be grass, largemouth, and smallmouth that I'm going, grass, largies, smallmouth, and I've turned into being pretty decent on these powerhouse fisheries. I took third at Kentucky Lake when Kentucky Lake fished real tough in FLW. I took fifth last year on Kissimmee there. These big fish factories, second here on Rayburn. I like them. I understand bigger bass, and I want to target them. And if I have my weakest is probably spotted bass. I love them to death. I love them to death, but I just don't understand the way they think and the way they move. And then this is also part of it. Any kind of suspended bass is not my deal. You start getting around the Ozarks and stuff in the winter when those bass like to suspend a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to let me throw an Alabama rig, I don't know how to catch them that well. You know what I mean?
Come put the camper there for a couple weeks and learn. I do, because when you learn those, it's the most fun bite you could ever have.
100%, and it's game changers. You win tournaments when everybody else is getting one or two bites. You're catching fish. So I would say that suspended fish, which also goes along with the spotted bass, that's going to be mine. But if you can keep me around big largies and grass, or anytime I can go for a smallmouth, I'm going to be confident coming into the tournament.
Real quick, hypothetical question. Hypothetically, let's say someone had a friend who had never been to Mille Lacs before, is from Illinois, and is going to Mille Lacs, hypothetically, in a couple of weeks for 4 or 5 days. Fishes tournaments, knows his way around it, never been there, doesn't fish up north. Hypothetically, if this friend said, oh my God, you have Josh Douglas on, you got to ask him what I need to have tied on up there.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, what would your answer be to that question?
Well, I tell that the way it is. I have a YouTube series I just started. It started as an Instagram. When COVID first happened, we had to figure out a way to promote our sponsors when we couldn't fish. And it's called What's on My Deck. And I just pull the rod. I just keep the rods on my deck. Bree comes out and starts taking pictures of them. And I do a largemouth and a smallmouth segment. I just got done. It's going to be a time of the year, but if we're talking hypothetically in a couple weeks at a hypothetical Mille Lacs Lake with a hypothetical person that I like, I would tell you that it's probably the time of year that you just go there. And let's put it this way. There's a reason why Sam Rayburn, Keith Combs won the AOY there. You want bait casters in your hand, and you want to be throwing big jigs, biffle heads, jerk bait, big swim baits. Those fish aren't small, so they eat big crawdads. Orange is always going to be a good color because we have rusty crawdads for the most part. They kind of took over the lake. And so anything with orange in it is gonna be a good play. Purple actually works too, and I'm not really sure why they like purple. I think fish just bass like purple everywhere we go. It's just a good color. But a Ned rig is huge. You know, I remember, heck, I haven't been on your show, but you guys have talked about me when I used an ice rod to catch bass to get into the cup last year. I appreciate that, by the way, you guys putting that up there. But so that was a Ned rig. You know, you want to have a Ned rig. You're going to definitely want to have a tube. Anything that imitates a crawdad. If the wind's really blowing, a Carolina rig, something like that. But, you know, a swim bait, we have some tulipy and stuff, and they spawn in the fall. So that's kind of beginning to be a big deal here come October. But I will tell you this. Hypothetically, that's my favorite time of year for catching 6-pounders. So there's a reason why I'm going home between those tournaments to fish for 2 weeks, because I might be guiding, but I'll have a fishing rod in my hand too.
Can you spook? This is a Jeffrey's question. Can you spook them up? Can you throw a big spook in the fall on Mille Lacs?
You can, but that's going to start to wrap because the water's going to start getting really cold now.
Oh, okay.
So once that happens, then those fish are going to start funneling deep. Now, you know, you want to fish for them out deep, but at the same time, that sun comes up and you got one of those warmer fall days. They're going to be on that stuff that goes very vertical from like real shallow water on the top of the reef to the side of the reef where some of those bigger rocks are. So they just move up vertically. So you don't have to, there's many ways to catch a 24-pound bag on Mille Lacs in October. So you can, if shallow's your strength, you know, and the weather's right, do it. And if it's windy blowing and oh man, winter's coming, you better get out deep, start throwing, you know, just like the same stuff you would on Rayburn. Maybe not a 10-inch worm, but you want to throw like, you know, a football jig, anything crawdaddy like that, and then definitely minnow style baits too.
Last question: what's the craziest thing you've hooked on Mille Lacs? Because I know there's tons of big walleye, muskie in there. Like, I mean, is there crazy? I mean, have you ever hooked anything that you're just like, okay, what do we got here?
Actually, no. Mille Lacs doesn't have. I mean, it does have some. You know, it's a big fish factory. For whatever reason, it's super fertile, and no matter what fish is in there, whether it's perch, whether it's smallmouth, largemouth, muskies, northerns, and definitely walleyes, they just grow really, really big. So just freaky big walleyes. You know, I mean, that's the other nice part about it. It's a destination lake, and at the same time, it ain't like I'm guiding on Louisville. I got to try to convince you that a drum is a good catch. You know, if you don't catch a bass, you know, you got a 7-pound walleye. That's pretty dang cool still. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big walleye. That's a destination fish right there. So it kind of works out for me. I'm like, oh wow, it's a big walleye. Let's take a picture, and people get as equally as freaked out about that as they do a 5-pound smallmouth.
If I ever make it up there again, I'm all about the perch, the yellow perch. Like, I mean, I know I love the smallmouth and stuff, man. But man, if I could go on a 3-day yellow perch trip, that's like my dream of heaven right there. I love yellow perch. I don't know why.
I know.
That's awesome.
All right, Josh, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. We definitely want to get you back on soon. I know a lot of people on the instant feedback, brand new Josh Douglas fans. And great job at Sam Rayburn, and looking forward to the remainder of the season to watch what you can do, man.
Yeah, right on. And I was listening earlier too, guys, what you guys were talking about. I mean, I think all these tournaments that just keep coming with the more content they can keep pumping out for us, different formats in the video. It's a win-win for the anglers. It's a win-win for the organization. And you know, it's just a good time. There's been a lot of drama in the sport, but I think now it's a really good time for people to focus on how much good information is out there from all these different circuits of really phenomenal anglers. And there isn't just 80 phenomenal anglers out there. There's a bunch of them, and they have a ton of good information for people that anytime you can have multiple tournaments pumping out good content, it's a win-win for the bass community, in my opinion.
All right, man. Great stuff, man. Be safe, Josh.
Thanks, guys, for having me on, man. Hope to be able to do it again.
We'll do it again. All right, man. Take care.
Matt, I'll see you soon.
All right. Well, yeah. See ya. I'll see you at next week or next month at Neely Henry.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you, man. All right. Great stuff there,
dude,
man.
So I had that moment. I always love these moments. So we pull up next. I pull in on day one. And I know I've got around 15 pounds, right?
Yeah.
and I ease into the slip or the spot right there on the bank.
Okay.
Josh Douglas pulls in next to me. Like I said, I know him to say hi to. Like, I'm not like buddies with him at all.
Yeah.
Just, I know he's listened to BTL. Every time I've mentioned him, he's been like, hey, thanks for the shout out. Hey, dude, thanks. I appreciate it. So I pull in. I love these moments. Josh, you catch him? Yeah. Yeah, I did. It's just something that you ask that question 1,000 times, right? And it's just so very rare that you just get that person who just goes, yeah, I smashed him, man. just low.
Well, he did.
Yep, I got him. And after he said that, I thought I had a good day. He said, did you get him? So that with just as confident and low key as he was, I was just like, not really. Because I thought I was going to answer, yeah, I got him. But just I had no idea what he had. But the way he was the way he just, yeah, I got him.
That's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. All right, good show. Tomorrow, who do we have on tomorrow? Jeez. Oh, we have...
my buddy is really going to Mille. It's not me.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
Daryl Gleason on tomorrow.
I got the ABA this weekend on the Arkansas River.
That should be challenging.
Be a 2-dayer. Then I got the 2-dayer on the Lake Texoma.
Is that the
Federation?
next
Weekend? That's the Bass Nation.
Yeah.
Then I've got an off week. Then I go to the Bass Nation Regional for the past year because I'm on the state team now.
Yeah, where's that at?
Toledo Bend.
Okay.
Then I go straight from Toledo Bend to the Open on Neely Henry.
Yeah.
Because that Toledo Bend gets over on a Saturday. Then, immediately after Neely Henry, if I make the final day, I miss the first day of the Bass Nation on Eufaula.
Yeah, that's okay, though. You get to drop one.
Yeah, but then also I'll drive all night and come back and do that.
You've done that before.
And then I have a week off, and then the Louisville Open. So I'm I'm go for the next.
That's good stuff, though, man. Stay on the roll. You know, momentum is a very, very good thing. Anyway, so this past weekend, I want to end the show with this. A very similar fishing/bowling thing. Folks, don't get sick of me talking about this because there was controversy in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
What?
A little bit of controversy.
What do you mean controversy?
Well, some of the people, and we've had this discussion, Matthew, they get upset. Some people like it. Other people get upset when the big boys show up and fish the opens.
Okay.
All right? Or the BFLs or whatever.
Oh, are you talking about the guy who was bowling in your tournament?
The big boys showed up in the tournament this weekend, and there were a number of Oklahoma players that were a little upset.
Is it an open tournament that anyone can sign up for?
Yes.
Were they guaranteed exactly what the field would be at the beginning of the year? Like, did they say, hey, these are the guys that you'll be bowling against all year?
No.
Okay,
no,
then
they didn't say that.
Then they got no problem. They got no issue. They should have no issue with the big
I agree,
boys showing
100%.
up.
All right? But here's the deal, all right? They didn't expect that they were going to have a full field, and they only paid 16 spots. In other words, they had no ratio in there.
They didn't adjust it?
They didn't adjust it.
Well, that's stupid.
They didn't adjust it. They had a max field of 70, whatever it was, 72, 75.
So if 25 had showed up, they'd have paid 16?
I guess so. I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
Anyway, so there was a lot of extra money, and the money got paid out to the 16 guys and everything like that. But then the other buzz was, they allowed guys, national touring guys, including Chris Barnes, who is in the PBA Hall of Fame, in the field. And do you think that those guys dominated?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did. So, anyway, I was the second highest finishing senior.
Next to?
Chris Barnes.
Did you make any money?
The Hall of Famer. Yeah, I made a little bit. Finished 25th.
How much you make?
But $150.
What was the entry fee?
$140.
And it was in Broken Arrow?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call that successful, Mark.
I
mean, if you're doing this to make money.
I'm not doing it to make money. But here's the other cool thing.
Do you have sponsors?
No.
You don't have.
You're looking at them.
Do you have bowling sponsors?
I get a discount.
Do you have, answer the question, do you have bowling sponsors? Like, if you, let's say you win a senior event.
Yeah.
And let's say
there is no contingency.
The Senior Bowling Times calls you for an interview. It's a wide distribution.
I might go on a podcast or something.
And they say, Mark, any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Just one. No, actually two.
Which
That's
would be?
900 Global.
Which is a bowling ball company?
Yeah. And Turbo Grips.
So did you send in a resume like, hey, I was big back in the 80s. Now I'm getting back in it. Like, what was you just used some contacts in the industry that you still had?
Yeah. Yeah. And all it is, dude, you get a discount. I mean, there's very few people that get compensated for anything in this industry. Anyway, the point that I was trying to make is...
Do you wear a bowling jersey?
I did not this weekend. You didn't have to.
You have one?
You have to wear one.
Does it say Jeffries on the back?
Yeah.
Does it say Globo Gym 9000 or whatever?
900 Global, yeah.
It says Turbo. It on it?
Yeah. I'll show it to you. It's sublimation. It is what it is.
The quarter zip or just over the...
I've got the crew neck and the polo collar. It's a requirement. It's a scam, dude. They require you to make a jersey.
You have sponsors and a jersey in bowling.
But here was the cool part about the weekend.
You don't have Strike King? Clay just asked. You don't.
No.
Why don't you have Strike King on there? I thought you're facilitating deals for the world's best bowler.
I brokered for Chris Prather.
You couldn't even take a little bit off and put it on there?
No, that's all. Dude, I'm not even remotely close to that level.
Can you put whatever logo you want on?
You cannot.
So, let's just hypothetically,
you cannot.
Since we're into hypothetical situations, a BTL Nation wanted to get together and put some stuff on your jersey.
You cannot. Now, you can, but the minimum deal for a PBA sponsorship...
No, I'm talking about you.
I'm telling you. Remember, the PBA gets a cut of every single sponsorship dollar on the national tours.
I'm not talking about the national tours. I'm talking about, the little Broken Arrow deal right there.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, but
you could have put whatever.
You're not going to get any exposure.
Oh, I don't care. What if I just wanted to?
You could. Hell, you could do whatever you wanted to do on any non-PBA event.
What's the minimum for the big PBA event then?
$5,000.
There you go, Clay.
And the PBA gets 5% of that. Yep. Now there are some certain special kind of deals that you can do, but you have to do a presentation and you have to do all this stuff and do that, and it becomes very complicated. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention, dude, this was really cool. Have you ever built a bait or modified a crankbait or painted a jerk bait, switched the hooks out, did some modifications to the hooks, really juiced it up and went out and caught a big sack with it? Have you ever done that?
With the rogues, just to get them to run right, with the split rings on the...
You put the wire around the hooks or whatever, do whatever.
Yeah.
Did you get any gratification in that? Was that kind of cool that you actually built this, tuned it in?
No, it's a pain in the ass.
And you didn't see
because you
anything
do all this stuff, and then you go out, and then you have to add another split ring. Then you have to change it from a size 4 to a size 5 hook, and then it doesn't run right. And then all of a sudden, there's a different density from the bathtub to the water with the temperature.
So you've never really created any type of lure or bait or anything from scratch and went out and caught something with it?
The closest I would say is an Alabama rig, where you put together, you've got the 5 wires, and you fish in... I've fished stuff we throw in Alabama rig where I've really caught them, where I've really tweaked some of the baits on the Alabama rig and what I'm throwing on it that makes it unique.
Yeah.
Different colors,
but
different
that's about
straight tail baits as opposed to ones that wiggle, stuff like that.
Well, this was the first time that I have made money drilling a bowling ball that I drilled on my own. It's kind of like building your own bait. The layout, the holes. Dude, I've done this in a span of 4 weeks, pretty much. That was cool to me. That really was, because honestly, I didn't have any idea how to do it. I had, about this much information, but I did a lot of research and did all this and everything, and then you go out and you perform well with something that you created.
I saw that. I mean, you have all sorts. I mean, millimeters that you're working with, and you got the new tools and all that.
Yeah, dude. And Friday night, I made my first mistake.
On a brand new Globo 900 ball?
900 Global. And, it's toast. It's sitting over there in the corner.
What'd you do? You were a little bit off?
Dude, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. An absolute idiot. I know what my measurements are, and I marked it, and guess what I did? I missed it by a quarter. Not just once, but twice. So it's a hunk of junk over there because you can't use plug stuff. You can't plug it up and
go
redo.
to school, don't you?
Eventually.
Do you have?
This week's a big
team?
week at school.
What's that?
First home game in our brand new football stadium.
They letting everybody in, or just a certain number? Of
No. It's all good. You got to wear a mask.
Huh.
But it's all good. It's going to be live streamed. We've got this big, massive $250,000 scoreboard or whatever it is for video and replays and commercials and all that. So very cool stuff. All right, folks, enough for rambling. Please, thank you for listening to that. It was most gratifying because, one of the things, you didn't ask me if I ever built a lure. Yes, I have. And it was really cool to be able to go out and catch fish on a custom painted crankbait that you painted. You came up with the color scheme. You put the hooks on. You sanded it. You kind of tweaked it.
The Excalibur?
No, it was one of those deep little ends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And you remember the pantyhose story? I told you that.
That's how you spray paint them. You put the pantyhose over the bait, and it gives it like a scale pattern.
That's old school. That's some of the stuff. But to go out and catch fish on that crankbait, to me, that's very, very cool. Same way with the bowling ball stuff, especially when I didn't have a clue how to do it 4 weeks ago. But good show today. Great show. I want to thank Josh Douglas for being on the show. A lot of people, as I mentioned, are now Josh Douglas fans. Really good dude. Sounds like definitely has his act together, and the guy can catch him. So we'll see what happens with the remainder of the season with him. Tomorrow we're going to have Daryl Gleason. First time he's on the show. Had a good performance at Sam Rayburn. What did he finish? Fourth, fifth, something like that?
Fourth or fifth. He had that 27-pound bag. He caught basically a 9 and a 10 on day 2. Been in the Classic. Had a great year. Was expected to do well.
He's won an Open.
Came up with a cool term called ocean pony, which is what he tries to fish for offshore. That's kind of his deal.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we'll hear about that. And then I am still working on Wednesday's show.
All right.
The other thing, too, the feedback from the Sunline Hotline show that we did with the 3 guys videoed in was one of the most commented on shows that I received feedback from. Those guys did a tremendous job, and we're definitely going to do that again. I think some of the people in the industry need to watch that show, dude, because that's feedback from the fans about some of the questions that were asked that are very, very pertinent to some of the situations that we're dealing with in the industry right now. So, great show. We will do that again. All right, man. You got a busy week. Can we expect to see some video hopefully soon on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, we'll try to get it, get the Rayburn video out. I've got everything, but except one of the big fish, I hit stop instead of record.
Oh!
So I have right before I catch it and right after I catch it. But I got everything else on there. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to have to kind of get in the studio and man, I don't know why, but for both of the days, I went 3 or 4 hours and didn't talk. I was dialed in.
Well, that's kind of cool.
And I was waiting for that braid to just jump. And I wasn't really worried about what was on the camera because I knew I was close to a check and I knew that I had a couple good fish in the box. Yeah. So, well, it is what it is.
Great job, man. 25th in the points. Continue the quest, and you will do well in the next 2. But outstanding effort at Sam Rayburn. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up here on a Monday. Back tomorrow. That's it. We're out of here.